Armikrog is a point-and-click adventure game by Pencil Test Studios that is, from what I understand, the spiritual successor to the Neverhood, though I've never played that one. It follows the claymation style of the Neverhood with an aesthetic similar to things like Wallace and Gromit. The title was originally released on October 3rd on Steam and is supposed to have a PlayStation 4 and Wii U release at some point in the future. Its launch price was $27.99. You play as Tommynaut, sent from your home planet to seek out Petornium, a power source capable of saving your people, and you have only your faithful clay eyeless talking dog thing Beak-Beak to keep you company. One other item worth mentioning is that Armikrog is a final release of a Kickstarter project. It raised just shy of $1 million on the promise of the Neverhood likeness and developer connection to Earthworm Jim. For gameplay, there is no magic here. The game controls precisely like every other point-and-click adventure game ever made. There are some minor pathing problems, but those aren't much of a concern. Throughout the game, you'll switch between Tommynaut and Beak-Beak, each only able to interact with certain puzzles. Admittedly, clicking on each character to switch to them can cause some frustration while other animations are in progress, forcing the player to wait without an obvious reason as to why. There's no UI to speak of, which could have resolved the player switch mechanic handily. Another old game that did this well was called Torrens Passage. It had a UI inventory screen along the bottom with character switching buttons. Speaking of inventory, Armikrog doesn't have one. So if you like rubbing one item up against another item for hours trying to figure out the right combination, this game solves your problem. Personally, games like Armikrog, Machinarium, and such without a proper inventory kind of bug me when they give you the ability to pick up items. It just feels pointless, but ultimately that's a minor gripe. One of the things that's frustrating to me about the game was the reuse of puzzles and game mechanics. There are multiple times that Beak-Beak has to travel through nausea-inducing film-negative tunnels, multiple times that you use a tentacle monster to move between levels, who also conveniently give you items to progress through the aforementioned Beak-Beak tunnel sections. The challenging puzzles were few and far between, with these simple reused time sinks being much more common. There are some challenging puzzles, and I really want to hand it to the devs on some of the backtracking required. I don't like artificial length, but when they hand you the answer to a puzzle on a silver platter in a previous area but you miss it, that's just fine in my books. There are certainly some puzzles that require you to be aware of your surroundings, keeping track of what change in one area affects another. I have very little in the way of complaints on the graphical side. It has all of the basic options a game with a claymation aesthetic needs, which is to say, very little. The characters are cute, the world detailed if nonsensical. I will say, however, that I was very unimpressed with the Beak-Beak tunnel sections. There is a graphical swirl that goes on through those tunnel pieces, combined with the film negative look. It's quite nauseating to look at, which, when you're going back and forth a couple of times, makes for a really poor experience. Armikrog has some pretty rough bugs. There's a puzzle that is used several times, which is a baby's mobile with music, where you have to hang up objects in the right order. And the music moves really slowly, which is bad enough on its own. In my playthrough, I had this puzzle state reset multiple times, which caused me to have to go through it again and again. Beyond that, there are multiple other instances of bugging, including sounds not triggering or being non-existent, I couldn't tell, or puzzles that are solved and clicked out of quickly, not triggering as solved. And frankly, point-and-click adventure games are quite linear in design. There's no excuse for a game with $1 million budget to have basic problems like this. Armikrog is a cute title, but is it worth your time? If you're on a nostalgia trip, maybe, but then again, that's why it got kickstarted in the first place. The graphical aesthetic is quite good and unique, but overly buggy design and consistent reuse of puzzle mechanics take a lot of the fun out of it. Combine that with about a 3 to 4 hour runtime, assuming you're pretty good at adventure games, and have a pad of paper nearby, it's just not worth a whole lot of scratch. And with a $27.99 price tag, I simply can't recommend it at all. Wait for a sale. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I hope this review is useful to you. If you're so inclined, please do check out some of the other content on the channel. My name's Tarmack. Thanks for watching.